Hello everybody. So today I wanted to do a review of the Acer Nitro 5 laptop, which I have right here. Now, there's many different configurations of this laptop available, but I'll tell you the one I have here and others will be similar. This is the 17.3-inch screen size model, and the specs are as follows. It has a 512GB NVMe SSD, and it has 8 gigabytes of RAM installed in single channel, as well as a 10300H and a 1650 Ti. Now, both the RAM and the storage are upgradable, so I've upgraded to 16 gigs in dual channel, and I have also added another 500 gig hard drive. This specific laptop is the 2020 revision of the Nitro 5, and it sells for $800 US with the specs that I just mentioned. So here I've got the laptop, and first off I just wanted to talk about what's most immediately noticeable, and that is of course aesthetics. Now, I like the look of the brushed black finish on the laptop, both on the front and the back is also black as well. But what I don't like so much about the front, and you can probably tell, is that it does act a bit like a fingerprint magnet, as you can probably see some of the prints on there. It's got this nice Acer logo right here in the front, looks pretty good. And then I actually do like the red backlit keys. You can't change the color, but I think the red looks pretty good, although keep in mind around the touchpad here, that's not an LED, that's actually just red plastic. I've seen worse looking laptops than this though. I do like the red LED keyboard. But that brings me to my next point. I did mention that this was plastic, and that's right. The entirety of this laptop's chassis is made out of plastic without any metal at all. So what that gets us is certainly less than ideal build quality, at least in terms of portability. It wouldn't hurt to have a laptop with better build quality. As you can no doubt see, when I press here, the entire keyboard flexes down. And the same thing happens when the lid is closed. Next up is weight. This laptop weighs in at a rather hefty 5 pounds 15 ounces, or 2.7 kilograms. So these here are the dimensions of this laptop, and now this model in specific, its dimensions, like its weight, might be somewhat prohibitive to those of you who really care about portability, but of course, this is not the only version of this laptop that's available, and if you care more about portability, you can get the 15-inch screen size version instead of the 17-inch one, which is this one, and the 15-inch one will of course be considerably smaller. So now I just want to talk about the screen itself. So even though 17 inches is a pretty large screen, it's still a small enough screen for its native resolution, which is 1080p, to still look very sharp. As one might expect, it looks much sharper than 1080p does on my 24-inch monitor that I use at my desktop. So the 17-inch screen size with the 1080p resolution does not fare badly at all, and you can probably tell how sharp it is, especially if I zoom in. You can still barely see the pixels whatsoever. Now, while I'm very happy with the sharpness of the screen, where it's lacking a bit is in the refresh rate. It's only a 60 Hz screen, which is to be expected on a monitor like this, and the reason why it wasn't a deal breaker or anything for me is because it's a gaming laptop, guys, and not exactly the most powerful one. So if I'm playing a AAA game like Red Dead Redemption 2, I won't be getting 60 FPS anyways. So the refresh rate doesn't take anything away from that. And if I'm playing an esport title, I can still turn off VSync and benefit from the decreased input lag, even though I'm not seeing more than 60 frames, which would be ideal. Now I want to show you guys a test of the camera and the mic of this laptop. So I'm recording this with both the camera and the microphone on the Acer Nitro 5 itself. This camera might not seem that bad to you, but it is a 720p camera, and trust me, it looks a lot worse in poor lighting. The microphone's quite decent though, as you might expect from a somewhat budget-ish laptop. Now let's talk about the keyboard itself for a minute. I actually think typing on this keyboard feels pretty good, and I like the flat keys that are quite comfortable to type on, even for long amounts of time. As you might expect in a laptop of this size, it does have a numpad here. That is an expected but very welcome feature. The quality of the keyboard actually surprised me given the amount of deck flex. You might expect the keyboard to not be that good. Now the touchpad, not so much. It's a plastic touchpad, which I'm really not a fan of, and I also don't like that it's offset, so it's not in the center of the laptop. It's just confusing and leads to some accidental right clicks, let's just say. But I don't really care at all, because most of the time, I bet most of you are going to be using a mouse while using the laptop, like if you're gaming, of course. But the touchpad will do just fine in a pinch. It's accurate, but the plastic feels very far from premium on it. Now, as far as the laptop's I/O goes, Acer provided a decent one. On one side, we've got USB-C, which is a nice addition, a standard USB port, USB 3 in fact, HDMI, a standard headphone jack, 2 more standard USB 3 ports, for a total of 3 of them, an Ethernet port, a Kensington lock, and then of course a charging port. Another thing I like is that the laptop can open super easily, even with just one finger. Now the bottom of the laptop can be removed relatively easily by unscrewing these 12 screws here, although it's unfortunate that previous versions of this laptop had a panel to easily upgrade RAM, and this one does not. But I have a video showing you exactly how to upgrade RAM and storage of this laptop, and I'll leave a link to that in the description if you guys are interested. Now, Acer also improved a big thing from last time they released a version of this laptop by actually separating the heat pipes, which used to go to the same place in previous versions, and the fans here were not separated at all, which made for a lot worse cooling. So now the cooling is considerably better than before. Now here we've got our battery, our 2 sticks of RAM. As I said, I upgraded the RAM, our NVMe SSD, and then also this hard drive that I added, and then the CPU and GPU over here, with each of the fans corresponding with 1. The fan system I quite like. It draws in air through here. There's 2 vents in the plastic, and then it exhausts air through these 2 vents on the side. Now the speaker quality, like the mic quality, while being far from exceptional in any way, is more than adequate for sure. The only unfortunate thing about the speakers is that since the speakers do happen to be located on the bottom of the device, it means that if you have your laptop in such a way that the bottom is covered by something, like if you have it on a bed, then the speakers on the bottom are covered and it really muffles out the sound a good amount. Also, as for the battery, you saw this device has a pretty big battery, but you can't expect that much from battery life. The battery in here lasts about 3 hours with low brightness, maybe power saver mode if you're just doing simple tasks like web browsing. But if you're gaming, you might get 45 minutes of a AAA game. And while not plugged in, the laptop locks games at 30 FPS. But this probably won't matter a lot for many of you, because usually when someone has a gaming laptop, they plug it in most of the places they go to. Now for the game performance, guys, and here's where this laptop really shines, considering the fact that it cost only $800, which is less than almost all gaming laptops. Of course, the performance here is not going to be the same as all the other Acer Nitro 5 laptops. That's going to depend entirely on which specs are in the configuration of the laptop in question. So in RDR2, which is a really demanding game, with the graphics slider a third full in order to prioritize frame rate, I'm still getting a 60 FPS, and the game, as you can see, looks very good. Now for a budget gaming laptop, this is quite impressive, and you can see since they didn't focus on stuff like build quality, they focused on stuff like actual raw gaming performance and pretty much nothing else. So steady 60 FPS, which will not be the case in places like Saint Denis, but still, as you can tell, this is a pretty good gaming experience, as well as a very good looking one. Now say you've decided you want to buy an Acer Nitro 5. There are still many different configurations, and I want to help you guys decide which one's right for you. So right off the bat, I'm going to say probably don't get the higher end ones of these, because the highest end that they have, I believe, goes for $1,100 US, but it's not that good of a deal. It has an RTX 2060, but here's the thing. If you have $1,100 to spend on a gaming laptop, you have a lot more options, and you might want to get something better in other ways, namely build quality, than the Acer Nitro 5. So I wouldn't recommend getting a Nitro 5 if that's your budget. Now, if your budget's like $800, I would recommend the one I got, except one thing. I would not recommend getting the 17-inch, actually, because it's heavier. It's a lot more difficult. It can be a lot more difficult to transport because of the larger dimensions and not fitting in bags and that sort of thing. And also just a bit wonky to always just be carrying this around if you're using it for other non-gaming purposes, I mean. Besides, 17-inch screen on a laptop, I sort of think is more than enough. And you're better off with the 15-inch, and you save money. Now, I would especially recommend, actually, is one of the lower end ones, because the cheapest one goes for only, I believe, $580 US, which is incredibly cheap for a gaming laptop. And you still get a 1650. So non-TI, but still, that's much less money than this one. That's for the 15-inch model, the one I'd recommend anyway. You get a 1650 and a slightly worse CPU from one generation before. But still, I do think that where the Acer Nitro 5 most shines is in the most budget-oriented models of it. So I'm going to do a bit of like a pros cons thing with this laptop. So on the pro side, there's just the raw gaming horsepower that this laptop excels at delivering, considering the price point. The price-performance ratio is on point in this laptop. Now that's obviously a very, very compelling pro for those of you who are going to use this laptop mainly for gaming, but it's kind of like the one, besides just improvements over past generations of this laptop, like I talked about, like with the better cooling. But if we go to the con side, we have a couple. So there's the build quality that I already talked about that is not very good at all. Doesn't feel like a premium product really. But if you just care about gaming performance, that's not really going to matter to you. And then there's the portability aspect, or lack of portability. I mean, of course, you can still take it anywhere you want, but the battery life is not that good, which is not great if you plan on not being plugged in very often. The laptop's quite large, so you might have trouble fitting it inside of your bags, and it's also quite heavy, which makes it more of a burden to lug around all day. So, who is this laptop for? Well, pretty simple. The avid gamer on a budget. The person who wants the best gaming experience possible, but doesn't have much more money than, say, $800 or so. And if you don't care about portability that much at the same time. I mean, of course, it's a laptop. It's still portable. You can bring it to your friend's house and plug it in there and play easily. But they're still obviously as portable as a basic laptop. But as far as laptops go, it's one of the least portable, or least conveniently portable laptops. So don't care about portability, really want the most gaming performance for your buck at all costs, compromising build quality and portability, this laptop's for you. If you're going to be carrying this laptop around a lot, like maybe you want a laptop that you're going to use for gaming a lot, but you're also going to be bringing it to work or something every day, and you still want to use it both gaming and not gaming, like as a portable computer that you want to be able to use for web browsing and stuff like that when you're out, this might not be your best bet. Which unfortunately means you're probably going to have to spend money on something more portable with better battery life that might not give as good gaming performance. If you guys want to see the video where I show how to upgrade RAM in this specific laptop, then click right here. If you found this video informative, please leave a like down below comment what you want to see in future videos, and please consider subscribing. See you guys in the next one.